All right, if you're doing these three things, you are fucking up your relationship. I've been guilty of all three. Number one is combating your partner's self expression with defense. This means not creating a space for your partner to be heard, instead, being defensive. So, if your partner wants to express something to you, and instead of empathy, you are defending that, instead of holding space, you're holding a shield, your relationship is in trouble. And I'll tell you why, how this leads into number three. But being defensive, so we'll forget about the relationship piece, just for your own journey. If you are defensive and it's a pattern, and people are always saying, why are you so defensive? And then that makes you more defensive, of course. If you're defensive, what happens is you're not creating the pattern to evolve, to grow, because defensiveness and ownership can't exist in the same space if you want to grow. Does that make sense? So in order to grow, in order to expand, in order to become a better version of yourself, you have to own things, right? So shit happens, there's conflict, there's turbulence in life, whether it's in relationships or whatever, owning your piece in it, even if your partner cheated on you, right? Or even if they obviously did something bad and wrong. I get that, but what is your piece? And I think that mindset is important because it makes you power-filled instead of powerless. When you blame and you're like, well, that fucker cheated on me, or he did this or she did that, you're not taking any ownership. And yes, that may be true. They may have done something bad, of course, and I'm not saying to minimize that, but if you don't ask yourself what your part is in it or was in it, then you're losing the opportunity for you to grow. And that's just a mindset that ripples through everything. It doesn't matter if we're talking about business, career, relationships, whatever, friendships. And so if in your relationship you are defending your partner's expression, you are basically rejecting how they feel. You're saying, not in words, but through your defense, through action, that you don't matter, right? And this is a really bad habit. So if you're aware of it, it's something that you should start breaking if you care about your relationship. So that's one. Number two, God, what was two? Oh, build a life, get a life. Yeah. So I coach a lot of clients who put everything into their relationship, all the weight, all the energy, and they kind of forget about themselves and their own life. And then what happens is the relationship gets very lopsided, right? So this doesn't mean to ignore your partner and go out and do shit. It means to build a life as you would if you didn't have a partner, right? So this is in my book, where are you going, and then who's going with you? And if you reverse the order, you'll be going alone, because running toward your true north and building something is it's life, and it builds trust. If you are with someone who isn't doing that, but he or she is just taking this black light to the relationship, you can feel claustrophobic. You can feel the attraction fading, right? It's sexy to see someone going out doing their thing, right? Whatever that is, that's what makes people hot, right? Or partly. And if that person, and I know that sometimes we go through stages and we get into a funk. We don't know what we want to do. We change careers, transitions. All that's fair, but generally speaking, we have to have the mindset and the intention to go out and build a life, and that includes what you're passionate about. That includes your friendships. That includes just everything. Your relationship with your body, all of that. So you have to have your own life, and then your partner has his or her own life, and then you guys are doing life together, not at or around each other, but with. I don't know what all these is. I just made this up. But with two fist bumps. Not around and not, this is called codependency, by the way, not on top of each other. Only like maybe on the weekends or, okay. So, and then number 3 is, and this relates to the first one, you have to resolve any anger and resentment. And in the first one, if you are being defensive and not holding a space for your partner's expression, then he or she is going to build anger or resentment, right? And listen, it doesn't have to be like you do something big that makes them angry. It could be like, death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? It could be over time. And this is actually what's more common than someone doing something like bluntly wrong. It's these little things that happen that we tend to keep inside, and they become stones in our shoe, right? We keep them inside, and then we just get more angry and more angry. And as humans, we're like pressure cookers. Eventually, we explode. It's important to catch this before the chemistry changes, because a lot of times you have anger, resentment, it builds, and then it gets to the point where you can't turn back because you kept it inside, and now feelings have changed, right? So before that happens, you have to express what you're angry about. You have to talk about the resentment so you guys can process it and dissolve it. If not, relationships aren't sustainable. So if you're doing those 3 things, being defensive, not building a life of your own, and holding on to anger and resentment, then you are fucking up your relationship.